Welcome to the Crank Guide to Budgeting for Marketing. Today we're going to look at our 5-step plan to creating your first budget. Step 1, understand the objectives. It's really important to understand what you're trying to achieve because the varying different objectives can impact the tactics and the activities and therefore the budget that we need to create to support that. In this example, we've got 4 different objectives. The first one is to generate our revenue to £1 million. The second one is a cost reduction exercise, whereby we want to reduce our costs by £100,000. For traditional businesses, they may want to increase the share of revenue that digital brings in. So that might be either through partners, going indirect, through wholesale, or that might be going direct and having the sales come through your e-commerce site. Or finally, it might be growing the share of the market that you're already in, so increasing your revenue within your industry. So in that example, you might see a decline in profits because you're buying an audience, but overall you're looking to move from maybe third or fourth in the market to second or first or top of the market. In the example we're going to look at now, we're going to look at us generating our revenue to £1 million. Step 2, understand the business and get the data. So we've already set our target, so we already know that what we want to try and achieve is to get our revenue to £1 million. In the channel we're going to look at here in this example is we're going to look at the e-commerce channel. So the direct to consumer e-commerce channel, that's our own website. We're not looking at wholesale and we're not looking at retail or other channels. We need to understand where the revenue is going to come from, but also keep an eye on our costs. Revenue can come from more repeat orders from customers, existing customers. We can have a higher average order value, so people increasing their spend. And the number of people that visit the website, the number of people that visit that then come on to purchase. Now, in this case, we're not necessarily going to be reducing the cost, but we want to keep an eye on our costs so that we're still generating a profit from the website. So the things we need to keep an eye on are things like cost per acquisition. And if we combine cost per acquisition with cost of sale, we'll get a total cost of delivering that customer. We need to make sure that that is less than the average order value. And finally, keeping an eye on the costs associated with things like returns and other things. So in that example there, we might not be able to reduce them, but we need to make sure that we don't get a high percentage of returns that might impact our sales. Looking here, we've got our current numbers. So overlaying our current numbers, we can see that on average, customers are buying 1.2 items, they're spending £50. We know that we're about 3%, so 3 out of 100 customers are purchasing when they visit the site. We know that the cost per acquisition is £25 and the cost per sale is £5. So a total cost to get a customer to make a purchase on the website of around £30. So that's still under the average order value of £50. And for any return that we handle, in this case, is going to cost us £15. Step 3, understand your gaps and channels. So the first thing we need to do is we need to identify our target revenue. So we know that from before, it's £1 million. What we need to do next is look at the total number of loyal customers. We have 10,000 loyal customers. We know they buy 1.2 times a year and they spend on average £50. So that gives us a total revenue of £600,000. We now want to look at reactivating some of our existing customers. We have a very large existing customer base, so we believe we can reactivate around 5% of those. Again, those people are purchasing 1.2 times a year, they're spending £50, so that's going to generate us £150,000. So when we combine that, our gap, our shortfall, is only £250,000 now because we have 750 from existing customers, and to get to the million, we need to have the shortfall of £250,000. And that's going to come from some new customers. Those new customers, looking at the same approach we took before, there'll be 4,200 of those on average looking at purchasing 1.2 times a year, an average order value of £50, and that will deliver us our £250,000. We could go into more detail and look at tiers of high value, medium value, and low value customers, and again, that would make this more robust. So there's nothing stopping us doing that, but in this example, we've kept it very simple and kept looking at very high level averages. Step 4, build your funnel. Here, what we're trying to do is understand the visitors or the traffic that we need to get. Again, it's an e-commerce site. So we're starting with the revenue gap of £250,000. There is the existing customers and the reactivated customers. So this isn't accounting for them. This is just looking at the budget for brand new customers, people that we want to attract. So if we take that revenue number and we divide that by the average order value, that will give us the total number of transactions we need. So if we go back from our transactions, we know around 10% of those people made a purchase. And we know that those 10% originally started on a product page. So that gives us our total of 50,000 people that viewed a product page. Before we get to the final number, we know that 50% of people that arrive on the site viewed a product page. So that gives us our final number of 100,000 visitors. That's the total number of new visitors, people that have never previously purchased from us before, that we need to attract to help get to that revenue target of £250,000. Step 5. Okay, we're going to work back down the funnel now this time. So we know we need to get 100,000 visitors. We need to get half of those, so 50,000 of them viewing a product page and 10% of those transacting. We have a cost of sale of £5 and a cost per acquisition of £25. So for those 5,000 transactions, we have a total spend or a total budget allocation of £150,000. What that also gives us, conveniently, is some target numbers. So for example, if we're doing a Google Shopping campaign, we know that we can get people landed on a product detail page or a PDP for £2.50. That's our target. Or if we're driving people to content pages or we're driving people to the homepage, we know that our cost per click target rate might be £1.25. Now, what we're saying is those numbers aren't absolutes, and if you go over those, that's problematic. All we're saying is that on certain channels, as an average, we might see that go above that number. On other channels, we might see that go below. So it's just a benchmark number that you can start to work with. Okay, to wrap up, in summary, the 5 steps. So first and foremost, you need to set your goal. What are you trying to achieve? That will help us identify the levers, the things we need to pull to actually get to and deliver on that number. The second thing to look at is your data. Yes, there's benchmarks and industry information out there, but actually your data is the best source of truth. Your data provides the most accurate information you can work from. Once you have that, step 3 then allows you to discover and understand what the gap is. How many existing customers have we got? What is the gap that we need to close to actually deliver on that original goal? And step 4, we need to build our funnel for that gap. Define that funnel, work backwards from the total amount of revenue that you need to achieve. And in this case, we looked at e-commerce, so that gave us the total number of visitors we needed to get. And finally, wrap up with outlining your costs. That high-level cost is super important because that sets the budget for you. Now, going forward, you will take that budget and work with your media team internally or externally to help shape what your media plan looks like, what your proposition needs to look like with your agency or internally, and your messaging, what the offers need to look like from your trading team and your merchandising team, and what that needs to look like. Thanks very much. More information is available at wearecrank.com.